Well, okay. Ed can take care of our, okay. So, hopefully tonight's Board of Health meeting will be, I'm hoping it'll be short. Our Board of Health Environmental Health Agent, Gayla Gibb, has something that she would like to present. So we'll ask her at this time if she would hold that microphone real close and share with us what you
Want to stand? Have a microphone?
No, I don't think so. Probably gotta turn it on.
Push the little button on the window.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, I will endeavor not to be too nervous up here. In 2018, Pitkin was required, mandated, forced to adopt Regulation 43. It does read like a legal document. It is. It is long and difficult to read, but we have been tasked as a town to follow it. And I'm not someone that enforces that. In my current job as the environmental health agent, I just point things out. And the Board of Health makes the decision what to do about them. And so that's what this meeting is about tonight. Because it's not who is doing what, but what is the Board of Health going to do and how are they going to do it if they do anything. So as Regulation 43 is enforced by the Board of Health, I felt it was my job to, my responsibility to bring some things to the Board of Health's attention. And it's, I guess, the best way to do it is at a meeting. For the benefit, I sent this in writing to the board members, but for the benefit of the audience, I will try to go over this. But the purpose for tonight is for the board to discuss what I have to say and form a plan. That's a plan or no plan is a plan, but anyway, Regulation 43 is promulgated pursuant to the On-Site Wastewater System Act, CRS 25-10-101, which is Colorado statute. It was mandated across the state, and the town of Pitkin adopted it. We really had no choice. Regulation number 43 deals with all aspects of OWTS, and the local public health agency is the primary entity that is responsible to enforce the act. And in the event that the local Board of Health fails to administer and enforce the provisions of any section of the regulations adopted under the OWTS Act, the division, that's the state division, may assume the function of the local public health agency or local Board of Health as may be necessary. And that's, in case anybody's got their book open, section 43, 4H, number 1 and number 2. There seem to be a few provisions in Regulation 43 that Pitkin is having difficulties with. And like I said before, this is just to advise the Board of Health of some things they might want to look into and resolve. Currently, we have an ordinance that says that RVs and campers without OWTS parked past 14 days is beyond the limit of our ordinance. That's just an aside. That's not in Regulation 43. But that's just one thing I'm not sure we have anybody to keep track of or look into. 43.4.0, number 4, prohibitions. No person shall construct or maintain any dwelling or other occupied structure which is not equipped with adequate facilities for the sanitary disposal of sewage. 43.4.0, number 3, general prohibitions. A person must not connect more than one dwelling, commercial, business, institutional, or industrial unit to the same OWTS, unless such multiple connection was specified in the application submitted and the permit issued, which means in the engineering. So we have some issues, but these two parts of 43.4.0 seem to be looming the most large. And I just want to say, I don't have a dog in this fight. If it's a fight, I mean, I just bring it to the board's attention. I'm not taking sides. I'm not publishing rhetoric on it. So it boils down to, does this board have the intention of supporting and enforcing Regulation 43?
Okay. Thank you, Gayla. I would have somewhat to say. I do recall in 2018 when the state, when states mandate things, lots of times they throw this stuff down the pipe and they mandate it to you and they don't provide any funding or backup, or, you're in charge, you take care of it. And to a large degree, I have kind of felt that way. But there is some support from the state if you get a hold of them to ask them a question. So what Gayla ended with there on the question, so since Reg 43 came into our Board of Health jurisdiction there in 2018, we have been at a loss, a serious loss of what is the process for enforcement of Reg 43? And I guess my question is, so when we all took our little oath here to be in the Pitkin Town Council and by default Board of Health, we raised our hand and we solemnly swore we would uphold the ordinances of Pitkin and the laws and statutes of the state of Colorado. So that part that Gayla read there about in the event that the local Board of Health is unable or not willing to enforce state regulations, that the division may assume such functions as the local Board of Health in regards to this act. And I'm not real fond of that particular idea of the state assuming any functions of our local anything. On the other hand, enforcement has been difficult, and since we adopted this in 2018, I don't recall any enforcement that we pulled off regarding Reg 43. And so you will see there on before council action that, with the issues that we have, and the questions are two. And the first one, Gayla said there, does this board intend to support and enforce Reg 43? And the second question is, because if we're not going to, then we need to inform the state that we're unable to, and that's not a good idea. But anyway, so discuss and formulate a plan for dealing with infractions of Reg 43. And my question has always been, and you guys have come up with the same question yourselves, where's the teeth? You know, there are provisions in Reg 43 for cease and desist orders. The Board of Health can issue a cease and desist. The Board of Health can assess a $50 per day fine per infraction on an ongoing basis. But then how do you pull that off? How do you collect the fine? How do you ensure that a cease and desist happens? And so, hoping to keep this short tonight, I would like for us to discuss and formulate a plan of some sort. And I have a few ideas, but they all require more than just the board, because we can assess an infraction and we can assess a fine, but we then have to be able to enforce it, which looks to me like it would require lawyer support or state support or some other support from some other entity. So I would entertain at this time some thoughts from the board on this.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, before we would discuss all of those items, I'd like us to take a look at a lower level and have a protocol for communication first with whoever has this infraction, like there'd be notification. So there's a call for hopefully working out a win-win situation.
And that is an excellent idea. And we do have protocols for that. But when you get to down to the brass tacks of a situation with an ongoing infraction that cannot resolve or doesn't seem to resolve, then what?
Yes, I think we're forced by the state. We have to have something in place. But we certainly want to make sure we're within legal boundaries and, so that we're not crossing the rights of citizens. You know what I mean?
I think I do know what you mean, but I find it's just slightly off from, because once you have established this communication that you were talking about, and you have assessed that there is in fact an infraction, and you have said, okay, now you've got so many days to clean it up, or we're going to start issuing a fine or whatever, or a cease and desist. At that point, where do we go from there? And so formulating a plan that, and your first part of the plan is totally legit, but we have had occasion where we've already passed that and we're still sitting on it without resolution. So, and there's going to be more of that. And so we either we need to find a plan. Ed, I see you over here thinking.
Oh, yeah. So my first question on enforcement. Will we as a town, the environmental health agent, the Board of Health, will we enforce equally on all infractions? It's a question that I have to question with, because given the information that we were given by the environmental health agent, some pictures, it appears that we're again targeting a couple of people for these infractions. A couple of RVs or a couple different locations. And just for curiosity, today I went around town to look at other possible infractions. Maybe they didn't have hoses out of their camper, but it looked like people are living it. And I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other possible infractions against an RV ordinance, not against OWTS. And that's what it appears like this is going after again, is an RV ordinance that didn't get passed. So now we're going to go after the RV portion of OWTS. And it doesn't appear like we're even starting out where we want to try to enforce things equally and partially. It's pretty sided. And I'm concerned about that. You can't have enforcement when you don't, or when you only target certain people. And I will not stand behind enforcing, or this Board of Health enforcing, targeting certain people. The one thing I'll say about the state is they're impartial.
They are quite impartial.
So,
And so as far as the pictures go, as Gayla pointed out, you know, we got a couple things that she listed there that people do ask questions about and comment on. And so she took some pictures of those things. They are, I guess, what I would call the visible tip of an iceberg, more visible than the rest of it. So you're right. But without a plan of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, you can't even start at all.
but I want that plan to include not just for RVs.
No, the Reg 43 covers all of OWTS stuff.
I understand that.
And so, no, I don't see it as just a solo target of RVs. Frequently, when you get engineering, the engineers have studied through Reg 43 and they've read all the tables and all the charts and all that stuff. And here comes the engineering for some house or some building or something. And those don't get passed on without getting looked at, because sometimes engineers do miss things.
Okay.
And then us uneducated people are supposed to try and catch that. And that has actually been successful a couple times. Mistakes successfully caught and plans revised. So no, I'm still anxious into pursuing how we plan to address issues as they come up.
Mr. Reed has a comment.
Yes.
Are you calling on me? I'm sorry, the video freezes every now and then, and so it's easy to miss little parts, which usually lasts anywhere from about 10 to 30 seconds. So if anyone on Zoom doesn't react to you immediately, that's probably why. I'd like to state a couple of things here. First of all, on the history, the Reg 43 and the town's adoption of it by reference goes back to 2015, not 2018. 2018 was just an update of the 2015 ordinance with a few more local changes, but the adoption of Reg 43 has been in place since 2015 and the 2015 OWTS ordinance. The next part of it, and I'm guessing, Tom, that you won't be able to answer this here, but I know that two of us weren't on the board yet, Ed and I think that Jara said that she wasn't at the meeting back sometime in either February or March where an executive session was held. But here's what I know from watching what has happened since then. After that executive session, there was a statement made that the attorney didn't feel that we were capable of, or I, I don't really understand what the reason given was, but that he didn't want to try from a legal standpoint to enforce the state law, which is Reg 43. I never understood why that was. Maybe you can explain that, maybe not. But then the next month or so after that, no, even further, because this happened while Ed and I, after we got on the board, the attorney apparently made the decision that, well, he couldn't really enforce our local ordinance without some changes to it. And so we've seen several iterations of that. And I really, at this point, I think that the board would like to enforce Reg 43, and I don't care if it's across the board or at 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, he froze up.
See if he comes back.
You froze up, Ramon.
Park in front of my house for camping, and yet a complaint was registered that I was camping in that trailer because it was opened up. Well, I can't get inside to work on it unless it's opened up, but that doesn't mean I'm camping in it. So people need to understand what's an infraction of the regulation and what isn't. Um, if Tom, if you can't explain what happened, why that difference, why the attorney didn't want to approach it from the state law standpoint or not, if you can explain that, I'd appreciate it. If not, I would request that you have the attorney write the board a letter, which will still be confidential and not subject to um, open records, explaining that to us, because I don't understand what the problem in trying to, from our end of it, enforce Regulation 43 is. Is that clear as mud?
So yes, you are correct, and I did not quite understand it either. I had supposed that a state regulation would carry some weight. He did not see it quite the same, it seemed. So in the process, I said I had some thoughts, one of them would be actually to contact our attorney and see what kind of process, how it plays out, what it looks like. Do things finally devolve into litigation and court? Where do things go? I would also like to ask our environmental health agent to pursue a verbal conversation with our state authority in regards to this, because so far it seems like we remain largely clueless. We can see an infraction, we can see a problem, we can see trailers here, we can see trailers there, whatever. But we're just ineffective in pursuing those to a correct end if the individual committing said infraction is not willing to be what's the word I'm looking for here? Get along.
Compliance.
That's the one, compliant. Compliance, yes. And we have, to a large degree here in Pitkin, been largely fairly compliant to the rules and regulations of our town. But with the incoming of 43, why things escalated a little bit, and then with some other things, we continue to escalate into new times. The machines are bigger, they're faster, they run harder, We got more people coming. We've got
connection, but it's gonna be loud here.
Okay. Anyway. So, we need to rise to the occasion here somehow and have a plan on how to deal with issues. And I agree with that, you know. You can't just picking and choosing is not the way to deal with issues, but, Reg 43 does not pick and choose. And as you pointed out, the state is not particularly.
Agent, much in the
they're pretty
same way.
impartial.
They are fairly impartial.
Just one moment, Ramon, we're having some audio issues.
Yes.
Give me just 1 second, please. I'm gonna try to get that connected again. Ramon, can you say something real quickly?
I can say something now, but I'm not getting anything from your side other than,
Okay, I think
frozen
we have that
screen.
fixed. I think we have that fixed now.
Okay, now it's back on, I think.
We
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Ramon.
Okay. I was just going to state that I think the beginning of that plan should set up to treat the environmental health agency as looking into and reporting to the board as far as any infractions go. The same way as infractions to the zoning code are come through the zoning board, but to the Board of Trustees for any enforcement action. And I think it should be the same with this. The person to report to would be the environmental health agent, and she can look into it to see if there is an infraction and report that to the board.
Well, I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Reporting back to the board, and then the board can check it out and so forth and so on. And we kind of have a list of things for the playthrough until we get down to having to play hardball with some individual or person.
Well,
So, no, I'm not moving.
That's why I'd like to see a letter from the attorney trying from his point of view to explain, why we should or shouldn't enforce one or the other or both or whatever as far as the state law versus local ordinance or local enforcement of state law.
Lean on the attorney. I think an opinion from the attorney would be a really good idea. That was also on my list. And I do not know to what degree we could actually get a opinion from the state. I would like to know, here they have mandated us with this, and it's fairly extensive and got a lot of rules. And my question would be, well, okay, so let's say that we do go to litigation with somebody over something about, okay, I've got $500 worth of fines here you assessed against me, but I'm not going to pay it. So then you take them to court. Does the state have your back? That's what I want to know. So I have questions too that are still unresolved. Gayla, our environmental health agent, has been frustrated with questions and some other things that have come her way. And I do not know and have not picked up if the state is serious or not in there, if the local board of health cannot or fails to, or whatever it was. I don't know how serious they are with that. So there's another question for you.
That might be a question for the town attorney too. since he does represent several other towns, to see if he has heard or seen or experienced where the state has stepped in and under what conditions they did step in. I do, while I've got the floor, I'm going to back up just a little bit because we jumped right back into the RV situation. And believe me, I am all for enforcement of OWTS. Don't get me wrong. But I understand that the Board of Health is responsible for the OWTS and its enforcement. I don't want the focus to be only on RVs.
No,
I think we need to be looking at an audit or an update of all the properties in town as to when the last inspections occurred, when they occurred. We need to be looking at those properties that have composting or incinerating toilets with black water systems, and when have they been tested? Because that we follow OWTS, and I think we've got to make sure that that is being done at all properties.
well, so as far as the property audit is concerned, I have some interest in some of the remodels that I have heard of that have happened, and I'm going out. I wonder what that did to their OWTS. And so they're
and my point is that if we're going to enforce any of it, we've got to enforce all of it. And unfortunately, that's the way it is.
and I do not disagree with that. But we have to have a plan on how to enforce it.
I understand that. But before we formulate a plan, I want to make sure everybody is in agreement that we are going to enforce everything equally. That's what I'm asking for.
But I don't have any issues with that. So the question is, how do we get there?
So going forward, I don't want to see just RV situations brought up. I want to see a plan that we can look at the properties. We look at the records that we have for the properties in town when the inspections were. We know they're supposed to be done every 7 years in all the systems and not excluding systems. That's got to be part of the plan of how we're going to monitor that. I mean, I go back on an old phrase, and it's not against anybody at all. I've used this phrase for 30 years. If you don't inspect what you expect, then don't expect much.
Say that one more
If you
time.
don't inspect what you expect, then don't expect much.
Okay.
And I've used that for 30 years, and I'm going to use it as my seat on the Board of Health and the Board of Trustee. And it's not against anybody personally at all.
Jared,
Yes, Ramon, are you hearing?
Yes, I am.
I wasn't sure because we seem to be cutting out over for a while. Thank you. I went down a rabbit trail.
Okay.
I don't remember what to say. Okay, I would be interested in hearing. I don't know how we procure this information, but we can't be the only town with this problem, especially as it's only a small town. I'd be interested in hearing. I don't know if Mr. Cousineau keeps. I don't know who knows this information, but surely we can get some help from somewhere. The Greg 43 is a big paintbrush. To cover the whole state. And as long as all of this, I have 147 pages, as long as those make sense, common sense for our situation right here where we sit, that's fine. But that's one of my big concerns is how we make this big paintbrush fit our needs. And so I'd be interested in having more information like that could possibly help.
okay.
I don't know if the attorney has
Could I
to find that
respond
out.
to Jara? Just a little background, because I'm certainly not anywhere close to an expert on OWTSs. Uh, obviously, I think everyone knows I don't have a septic system, as they used to be called. I have an electric toilet and a gray, not black water, Ed. I have a gray water system. I have no black water.
Okay, so tonight is about the process, not who's doing what, who's got what, who's gonna do what. So I would like to, if this is okay with you guys, I would like to request of our attorney that he formulate the steps of the process, but what the end game looks like when it finally gets down to push comes to shove.
Yeah, but I wanted to answer Jared's questions. There are only 2 towns left in the state of Colorado that have OWTSs, not a sewer system, Pitkin and Marble. For a long time, there were 3. It was Pitkin, Marble, and the third name escapes me. It's just over the other side of Lizard Head Pass, and they have a sewer system now. So the only 2 municipalities left are Pitkin and Marble, both in Gunnison County, which is kind of unique unto itself. But all
Will fiddle. You froze up again, Ramon.
where there's not a sewer system providing waste disposal.
Okay,
I don't know if that question is for the town attorney or if Cusino could give us.
well, I would also like to include Mr. Cusino in the question of process and what the end game looks like if we get to that point with anybody. So would our environmental health person be willing to try and pull off a very point blank conversation with Mr. Cusino to see exactly what is the state's position regarding the town of Pitkin?
Me too. And I'm happy to have you weigh in on it or witness it or help with it too. Anybody else could on the board that wants to be there too.
Maybe we could
Maybe
have
do
him,
it, or do a conference call with.
yeah.
Well, we'd have to do it during business hours when he's there, but I could try to arrange that.
Okay, Jared and Ed and Ramon, does this a Zoom conference call with Mr. Cusino? Does this seem like a thing you would like to see happen?
I would.
I don't know if it needs to be a Zoom or if we just do a phone conference,
A phone, well, yeah, you're right.
Whichever, whatever.
but I'm good.
He knows how to do Zoom though.
Cusino?
Yeah.
Zoom works better than the phone.
Do what?
Up here,
The Zoom works better than the
up
phone.
Yeah.
here it does.
Yeah, okay. Any other ideas, or I'm gonna turn it out here for just a minute?
I was trying to jot down the bullet points, and maybe Sarah has them for the questions for the town attorney or Cusino. And that's fine.
Get a little closer
Okay, so,
You know, I
so
own it now.
for all of those in the audience here who have not managed to ever get their hands on a or online look at Reg 43, I would highly encourage you to take a look at it. It's there's a lot of charts and a lot of graphs and a lot of other stuff, but there's also a lot of good stuff in it. And as you have heard, the local environmental health board is tasked with enforcing Reg 43. And as Ed pointed out here, this is across the board. If there is a problem discovered in infraction, then the individual should be informed of the infraction and it should get resolved. They should want to resolve it because if you don't resolve it, it just escalates. So but I need to know who's got our back. I need to know what the process is. What does it look like when it gets down to the hard fight in an end game? Because we're likely to get a few of those from time to time. This won't be like, well, you've been there for 31 days in your camper. You need to move on or whatever. And I don't think that's in 43 either. But anyway, if we learn how to deal with 43, we'll also learn how to deal, I hope, with some of our ordinances. And as Ramon pointed out, we probably need to work on some of those too. I'm going to turn this, anybody out there in the public have anything they would like to say, and then we're going to wrap this meeting up.
I have one question.
Oh, sorry, Ed's got one.
So if we do the Zoom meeting, is it with the town attorney and Cousineau at the same time?
That would be harder to work out. I don't know how we would.
That sounds like a scheduling nightmare. We can try. There's
Uh,
not to ask.
That's just,
Like,
I'm just asking the question because I wasn't clear if we were going to try to do it separately or maybe with do
I would,
it with
my
Cousineau.
inclination would be hit our attorney first and then go to Mr. Cousineau because he's farther up the ladder. And we would have gotten enough feedback, hopefully from our attorney to have some really good questions. But
That's fine. I just want clarification.
yeah,
How we want to do it. I'm not,
you have a preference?
I kind of like the idea of throwing them both in the same boat. at the same
Yeah,
time.
just hit them all at the same time. I'm not opposed to that.
But it may
I'm not opposed to that.
schedule it.
That can be
Okay.
fine.
And Ramon, I'm pretty sure you'd be in favor of
You
that.
were blocked out again for,
hold on.
Oh, can't hear you.
Every time it clicks off, it changes the audio. Just 1 second, I'm gonna get that fixed. All right, we should be good now. Good?
okay,
Okay.
you're back on. Could you repeat the question?
He wants to tell him about the schedule I hear.
Oh, so we were discussing scheduling or trying to schedule a Zoom conference with both Mr. Cousineau and our attorney, Mr. Buchner, at the same time for the Board of Health. And the three of us think maybe that might be a good idea, and thought maybe you ought to weigh in on that.
I think it's fine. I would have difficulty if it's scheduled in the morning because of the postal work, but other than that, I'm free.
Well, okay.
So
Let's see if we can coordinate some times.
I'm going to throw a wrinkle in it.
Uh-oh. Go.
Can we do that as a board without it being a public hearing? It's got to be a public hearing.
Yes. It has to be a noticed public meeting if there are 3 or more members of the board present
Right.
to discuss public business.
Well, okay. We'll advertise it.
So we'll have to, yeah, we got to make sure we do.
Okay.
I will be unavailable the first week in October, Sarah.
And I'm out,
Last week of September also.
Now, I might be, I could Zoom,
You got,
I'm
but I
out the
can't
23rd
Zoom
into
if I'm in the hospital.
probably the 6th of October.
I'll tell Sarah. so we can-
Sarah, I'm out the 23rd of September.
I think I have that.
Yeah, you do.
Until when, please? Or just that day?
October, probably October 6th or 7th.
That kind of coincided with Jira, so.
Yeah.
Do it then anyway.
Okay, we're gonna do a few public interviews or comments here. If you have an opinion on something, let's keep it short. I'd like to get this done. Go ahead, Jesse.
Thank you. Be careful what you ask for. And what I'm meaning is I would far rather resolve problems right here, face to face, than go legalistic routes that not only cost the town, but cost the individual residents. And I'm definitely in total enforcement rather than spot enforcement. And I think that, I believe our residents are trying to be good stewards of their wastewater and of their well water. And in a recent situation of accusation of us contaminating Quartz Creek, previous mayor asked me to take a sample above town and below town and have it tested for E. coli. Below town was cleaner than above town, which is a big plus to Pitkin. And when you talk about Tusino, he needs to understand our town because it is unique. And we have some great systems, and any new system or replacement system is up to par. So I really encourage us to be communicating with a suspected problem to confirm that it definitely is a problem rather than a rumor. So I just, yes, I don't want to be in the court system.
Anyone else?
Before my time in, Chad Garnell, before my time in Pitkin, I think that there was talk of having a central sewer system at one point. Would that do away with the Reg 43? My question is,
Where was a lot of our angst?
so my question is Pitkin's great. We all know that. I don't think there's one bad person in Pitkin. If it comes down to, well, you guys are saying when this and when this and when this and how is this and when is it going to happen? How long are you going to kick the can before we actually get a central sewer system? That would eliminate gobs of problems in town. That's where I'm going with that. That's one of my main points. Number two, anytime that there's a complaint that goes in, I believe that there needs to be more than just one person handling that complaint. There needs to be a paper trail. I mean, a little book doesn't cost a lot. You know, whenever you can say that there's a complaint turned in, you know, we ought to be able to have the town council go to it and say like, hey, I heard a rumor that there was a town complaint filed on this guy because he doesn't have a septic system. Okay, well, we, as a board, the trustees should be able to look up and say, oh, that was a friend of one of the board members and it got thrown away. We need to have some kind of transparency, some kind of accountability that if there's a complaint filed, who filed up on it, what was the action taken, close the book. And then a month later, 2 months later, if that same thing comes up once again, you can see it. I think that that's another one of my big things that we need to work on. Inspectors, if you will, OWTS, building inspectors, they need to have permission to cross onto private property. They don't just need to show, no. I don't care what the rules say, but I'm telling you what my feeling is, okay? If you come onto my property without having some kind of a correspondence, something, I don't care what the rules say, I still consider that trespassing. I don't agree with it if you just want to come onto my place. Equally, if, you know, I don't go onto your place because it's called respect, you know? There's other people in town that have cameras up now, catching people on other people's property, not cool, disrespectful. But yeah, come on. Let's kick the can, put it on another table or something. Equal enforcement to everybody, not just camping, but, you know, does regulation 43 cover the people that don't have sewer systems, that have smoking toilets? I don't know. I'm an idiot. All this stuff goes back to, you know, Pitkin is going to be Pitkin for the next 100 years, the next 200 years. But Pitkin's not going to be Pitkin until we have a centralized sewer system like all the other little small towns. So that's the answer, whether it's going to be today or in a year. And it's only gonna be more expensive and more expensive and more expensive. So the ultimate resolve is pretty clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Varnell. Anyone else?
Trustee Reed has a comment.
Okay,
Yeah, I would like to see us either tonight or you can put it on next week's Board of Trustees meeting, set a work session for the Board of Health to look at the overall aspect of this. And this would include some of the things that Chad just brought up. I'd like to have some discussion about looking at the future as well as how we deal with the present. So I'd like to see if the other three of you can agree tonight on a meeting date to hold just a work session for us to discuss the things that were only discussed about tonight, but we can't really go anywhere with them at this point.
Would it make more sense to have the work session after we have the call with the town attorney in Kusino?
I think so.
To get more information.
Probably yes, because until some of these questions are answered, I don't see us getting very far in dealing with trying to better organize and plan.
Well, okay. It looks like we're wanting to have a conversation with our upper level echelon, our attorney and our state guy, Mr. Cusino. I want to, Roger.
Good morning, yes, or 2 days in a row,
Get real close.
real close, they were better. Rich and Dad, those people are wonderful. They will help us with the sewer system, they will help us with the water system. They will help us get fire hydrants in town. They will organize things that we know nothing about, how to get grant money, federal money, state money, emergency funds, all this stuff that's required. Does anybody here know anything about Region 10 besides Sarah? If not, we are barking up the wrong tree. We're worried about enforcement of little things that don't even matter, maybe 2 months, 3 months out of the year. We got 7 months of snow here. Nobody camps here in the wintertime. But yes, we need a system that works 24/7 and we don't have it. We need fire hydrants. We need to upgrade our fire department with fire hydrants. We could bump up at least one. This will probably cut some of our property insurance on our homes in half probably. There's a lot of things we can do for this town. And you know what? Your attorney's gonna say, why don't you guys look into some of this? Why don't you get yourselves together? Get a plan, not just enforcement of someone parking a trailer in town for more than 24 hours. You know, we don't have an enforcement officer. What you're asking people to do here on the zoning board, we've been asked for it many times to enforce things. We don't have an enforcement officer. No one on the zoning board is authorized to bang on my door and ask me about my septic system. I wouldn't tell them. I said, well, I don't know anything about it anyway. So I'd have to pay someone to come out, inspect the system, you know, that's qualified to do it, and then submit it to the town and say, here, it's a good system or a bad system or whatever. Is this what we're gonna require of everybody? No, it's not what we're gonna do. So anyway, yeah, we got a lot of work ahead of us. I don't see anybody saying, yeah, I want fire hydrants in the town. Region 10 says we don't even have to pay for it. It's emergency funds. I asked them if we could, put it above town, up near the middle course turnoff. It's about 170 feet elevation drop to the middle of town here. We could get a gravity feed system pretty much set up, but I said we gotta put it on Forest Service land because we gave our park away. And they said, no problem. This is an emergency situation. I said, how about we don't have water rights to do it? They said, that's not a problem either. These people know what they're doing. All we gotta do is ask. I think we belong to Region 10. Sarah, is that right?
Correct.
You want to improve the town? Let's get with it.
Well, thank you, Roger. And I appreciate Chad's comment. Pitkin's gonna be Pitkin. We need to look to the future. I especially like the part about the septic system. It has been on several people's minds and I've heard it bantered about. So if there are no more comments this evening, get her done, Jesse, hurry up.
Money. And everything has a price tag. And
It does.
it's not all money. If you start laying underground water lines, septic lines, guess what pavement we've got on Main Street goodbye? There's gonna be a 10-year period to try and get things put back together when they're still functional again. There's a price tag with all these improvements. And when you spend 40,000 on a septic system, and it's probably more today, you want to abandon that and start paying, I don't know, $200 a month maintenance fee on a septic system. You're going to start paying for municipal water that has to go through a treatment center that we hate the taste of the water coming out of it. There's a lot of things on your kids' shoulders. Consider all of them, please.
Thank you all very much for being here this evening. Keep Pitkin in your thoughts. Prayers. And keep an eye to the future, and we will see if we can organize a talk with our attorney and our state, Mr. Cusino at the state, and perhaps we will come up with some plans, and I may have a conversation with Sarah Bergstrom regarding what would it take to install a septic system.
Water treatment system.
I don't think that we need to have a water service, just wastewater service, just to clarify that. The only other question that I would have, a statement, I really think that whenever you talk to the town attorney, I really think that the town attorney should have information given from one person. I think that the town attorney should have information from the board, maybe a work session, whatever y'all called it. But if the town attorney is going to get all this information from one person, it might or might not be biased information. That's what I wanted to get at.
All right. And on that note, thank you all for being here. It's 8 o'clock and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Nothing got done, but I think that was the first meeting we've had in a long time.